Episode 14 of In the AM with MC. If you're waking up with us, if you're going to sleep or something in between, welcome to the show. This is the 14th episode, and we're going to do something special here. We're going to have a mock draft of the first round of the upcoming NFL draft. And I'm also, before that, I'm just going to talk about a couple of these free agency moves. So on the last episode, we discussed the first day of free agency, right? Or two episodes ago, perhaps. But, the Bears, the Chicago Bears, both through free agency and through trades, right? One of the early trades that I thought was interesting because it snuck under the radar and it was right after a Super Bowl in which the Chiefs were just dismantled. So you want to keep everything that works. And then maybe take big swings at things that can change, right? Knowing that it's also going to be Travis Kelce's last season, most likely. But that didn't include trading Joe Tooney, in my opinion. Joe Tooney is an absolute legend as an offensive lineman. He played a lot of left tackle for them this year after playing left guard for most of his career. Not easy to just switch over like that. There's not any position in the NFL that's easy to just switch over like that, but I think it's especially hard on the offensive line. Um, and he's just been a part of two separate dynasties and been a massive part of those dynasties with his protection. And Caleb Williams is a player who I talked about on this show who succeeds so much out of structure, and now he's gonna play within structure with Ben Johnson. The question just remains like, how much is he gonna buy into the offense, to be fully honest? I think like that is the difference maker. And I also think they need to get a dynamic back, right? Like when they had David Montgomery playing how he was playing, the quarterback play was a lot easier for whoever was playing quarterback at the time for the Chicago Bears because Montgomery was on the Bears for a while. Um, and there would be different quarterbacks. But I think that they can draft a guy and then have a healthy mix of Ian Wheeler, Velus Jones, and whoever the draftee is, the draftee will probably take most of the carries for them. But they can have running back by committee because you have Ben Johnson and he just came from a team that had two guys who were studs at running back, right? One of which being David Montgomery, but two guys who were studs at running back, getting them over 1,000 yards. He had two receivers, he got over 1,000 yards. Tight end who was a stud, who he had like I think in the 2 years he was there with him, Laporta probably had 1,900, 1,800, 1,900 yards, probably 13 touchdowns, 15 touchdowns. So just scary stuff what Ben Johnson can hopefully do in that offense, what he can scheme up for them, what Caleb Williams can hopefully produce with that kind of protection because he does have protection. He has protection via draft, oh sorry, excuse me, via trade and via free agency. So fixing the interior of that offensive line really speaks volumes to them. They can get a backup guy. They can get a guy like Dan Skipper in free agency. I think he's still a free agent. But you never know. You never know with them. Um, in the draft, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm sure they'll go mostly defense, though. If I was a betting man, I think they're going to go mostly defense. Um, DK Metcalf extension had me scratching my head just a little bit because 5 years, 150 seems like a lot of money for DK Metcalf. I think he is an athlete who looks good on paper. He looks good on film. He's young, he's fast, he's strong. He's shown that he's willing to block, which is really important as a wide receiver. No block, no rock. But $30 million a year just doesn't sit right with my soul for DK Metcalf, considering the production or lack thereof. He hasn't played in any big time games, right? And he's like a 1,000 yard, like scraping 1,000 yard receiver. And then you already have George Pickens, who's known to be emotional on the field. Like that's what people call him. That's what he kind of um lives up to be. And that's what he kind of embraces. And this is only going to add to that, in my opinion. I just don't see him welcoming Metcalf with open arms with that 1A relationship, knowing that he's going to be the 1A and that or he's going to be the 1B and Metcalf's going to be the 1A. Like knowing that he's taking a backseat to him of sorts, even if he feels like he's not, like he is taking a backseat to Metcalf. Um, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that extension. I don't know about that move. You don't even know who's going to throw the ball for you yet. It's definitely not going to be Mason Rudolph. He's the backup. Um, he's not going to be the guy for them. So it looks like they're in the quarterback sweepstakes. And are they going to take a quarterback in Michael Codrington's mock draft? I don't know. Now I'm playing. You'll find out in a second. But um, yeah, Metcalf extension has me scratching my head. Shout out to him and his new fiance Normani. The Eagles' rebuild method is very interesting. So it's actually really similar to the Chiefs method that just got them the championships that they got. But they combine drafting guys at positions that can challenge at the position with either signing a free agent or bumping up a backup to that position and creating that camp roster battle. Because ultimately you kind of get the best of both worlds where you get players who are flourishing. You get the backup players who will probably try their butt off on special teams if they end up on special teams or in their back reps on defense, trying to, prove themselves on offense, or excuse me, prove themselves as a starter. And you just never know. And as a GM, it's financially again that other world. Like I said, you get the best of both worlds. So on the field production, and then financially, sometimes you get that backup or you get that rookie contract player, um, like Trent McDuffie. You know, like he was. I mean, he was a rookie the whole time. Nick Bolton, he's only now signing his second contract with the Chiefs. George Karlaftis is a player that they drafted, right? And all of these players came in and they either challenged for the position with a somebody that was like kind of being bumped up, or with a free agent, and they shared the workload to eventually take the workload. And the Eagles are doing that right now. Like they signed Adoree Jackson, who is serviceable at this point. It just goes to show you, one, how difficult the NFL is, but two, how everyone's situation is different because Adoree Jackson, I still remember at USC, I think his highlight tape was one of my favorite ones to just watch, just put on. Tremendous athlete. And he had a Pro Bowl season, maybe all pro. I'm not sure it was all pro, but he had a Pro Bowl season when he played for the Titans, came over to play for the Giants. And he had a really good season for us, Pro Bowl season for us. Um, but now he's just kind of serviceable. And so he's going to go play for the Eagles. And I think he's going to be more than serviceable for them. He's like their Isaiah Rodgers replacement. Um, but they're probably going to draft a guy again, knowing the Eagles, knowing how they go. They're probably going to draft a guy again, take another swing, try to bolster that room with just one more piece. Keely Ringo could really step up for them, but they really like the exciting whites, as they've been called. They really like those players that they have on the back end. They like Quinyon Mitchell. So again, young players, right, that challenge the spot. Quinyon Mitchell took the spot of um, James Bradbury, who they ended up cutting, and Darius Slay, who ended up cutting. So Eagles rebuild strategy is very similar to the Chiefs. The Chiefs will definitely challenge again for the championship, but it'll be interesting to see how they get there. Will they use this draft? I think that one thing that is really unfortunate is that we as a world have lost the ability to cover the stories in the necessary language and reaching the necessary barriers in a world where it should be like a snap of a finger, you can reach everyone. But I say all that to say, like, when we talk about college football, yes, I'm guilty of this as well, right? We talk about NIL, we talk about money, we talk about players, but we talk about the NIL and the money first. And we don't talk about all of the players. We talk about some of the players. And I am going to do a mock draft of this first round, but I think that we should stop being surprised by players in the sixth, seventh rounds, undrafted players who can play because, and Ian Wheeler is an example of this, right? One of my great um, role models in this world, just a great dude, overall great dude, just walks with a purpose. And he was featured on Hard Knocks with the Chicago Bears, and he tore his ACL his first year, and he took it on the chin, and he spent all year rehabbing, but he's really stood out for the team in the preseason action that he got with them, and it all started with him from being a walk on at Howard, right? And he didn't get drafted, and then he ran a 4.35 at his pro day. Like if you can, and he was, I think he was second team and third team all conference, like, and he was all conference as a returner and as a back. which is so hard to do in the same year. It just speaks to him as a person, but also the fact that like there are people out there, so like you should not I think as a fan, but also as an organization, like the organizations don't value these players. Um, and it is in some way connected to the fan support, right? Because the fan support is the bottom line, and the fans support with their pocketbook. And so sometimes, and not in every case, but sometimes the the fandom um disconnect between the seventh round and undrafted players can get them off the teams, because the same way that they can become hometown favorites or crowd favorites or whatever, it's the same thing in the inverse, right? And so a lot of those guys, they don't end up getting food on their table. It's that simple. Um, Without further ado, let's go into the mock draft. Let's go into the first ever Michael Codrington mock draft. On episode 15, we are going to discuss what I believe the New York Giants should do with their picks. They got a compensatory pick. Um, I think in the third round, it was 99. So that's good that we got another third rounder, but I think we can make a trade. It's a trade. Shout out to I think that's Jamal Charles. All right. Number one, the Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward. The Tennessee Titans have already spent in the past couple years picks on like Malik Willis and Will Levis. And I think the sad part about all these quarterback picks is that they're oversimplifying it, because they always end up having an awesome defense. And then the defense, they don't, Jeffrey Simmons and them, they have nothing to hold on to because the offense kind of flames out. But when they were being successful, the, the formula was there. It was a strong run game, right? It was take what they give you, and every now and then, throw against a light box. And so Ryan Tannehill was able to do that, and he's able to get the ball downfield and threaten downfield, or he was when he was playing for them when they had won a playoff game, game in maybe 2019. So Cam Ward at one for me for the Tennessee Titans. Number two, Cleveland Browns, you got to get Travis Hunter. The Cleveland Browns are just not good. They know that they need to get any player, and that they are binded by the ankle to Deshaun Watson, which sucks for them. But that is that is what happens when you're the Cleveland Browns. Not a favorable place for a lot of people. They joked about Shador Sanders not going to the draft so that he couldn't go to the Browns, and the same thing with Travis Hunter. But yeah, Travis Hunter is the perfect player to go to the Cleveland Browns because he doesn't enjoy going out. He's already married. He's already a at-home guy. So you think about when you play Madden and they start you in the house and this, like when you play Madden and they start you as a rookie, you're in a loft and you're like a bachelor. They have you in like a bachelor pad. Uh, but Travis Hunter is gonna buy a house in Cleveland with his girlfriend. He'll either have a big truck, like a Trackhawk, probably for the Cleveland weather, or he'll have like a nice luxury smaller car, like a Lexus or a Mercedes, and he'll be Travis Hunter. He'll drive to work. He will be in two or three offensive packages, and he'll be a full-time defensive back on the other side of Denzel Ward. Good luck. Good luck. Um, so yeah, I think the Cleveland Browns should make that pick. It's pretty simple. And you might be thinking right now, like, does he have any trades in the first round? I got a couple. I got a couple. I think the Patriots get Abdul Carter. He's a guy that would love to play for Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel would love to have Abdul Carter. There was some talk about his ankle. I think he had like an ankle problem. They didn't know if he was going to get surgery. They say he's going to perform at his pro day. If he does not perform well at his pro day, he obviously could drop lower than 4. But as of right now, if you don't take Abdul Carter at 4, I'm not sure who you take. Jacksonville Jaguars, Will Campbell seems like a Jacksonville guy. He seems like he's already from kind of down in that area. He would fit in well in that area. People would love to have him. He can play inside. You have Walker Little on the outside, so he can play inside. Um, and I think he'll gel well with Trevor Lawrence as well. They need to just get it up and running down there. They just need to get it up and running. There's no reason you have Evan Ingram have a Pro Bowl year. You have Brian Thomas have a year he had last year. You have stuff like that happen, but then you continue to be a mediocre team. There's no reason for that. The first trade is at number 6. I believe the Las Vegas Raiders pick. I think they're going to trade out of it because at that height, right, they already lost out on Shador Sanders, who I think they really wanted. They lost out on Cam Ward, who I think they really wanted. They might want Jackson Dart in another life, but not at number 6. So I think they trade out of it. And they could get Mason Graham, but they already have Christian Wilkins who can play the 1. He can play the 3. He can play a 0. He's Christian Wilkins. Um, they have a very strong defensive line unit, and they have already put so much money into it between Wilkins and Max Crosby. So it doesn't make sense to then get Mason Graham at this pick. It just doesn't. So I think they trade out of it, and Mason Graham goes to the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Atlanta Falcons trade up. They have so much firepower on offense already between Bijan Robinson, Penix, um, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. So part of me thought they're going to trade up and get a receiver, but no, I think they trade up and get some help on the other side of the ball with Mason Graham, all pro year last year from AJ Terrell. So they do have some stuff cooking on that side of the ball. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who tries to trade for Trey Hendrickson because he's a game wrecker. The Trey Hendrickson trade could take place in the middle of this first round. There could also be a trade in the middle of this first round for somebody else who's like a difference maker, but I think Trey Hendrickson for sure. Will Johnson to the New York Jets. They just lost DJ Reed. Sauce Gardner could be a mentor type role to him, but also having two guys just feathered on the outside who are supreme athletes and who can tackle. Sauce Gardner has a reputation for not being able to tackle well. I think it depends what kind of technique he's playing, to be honest. I think that if you're in front of him or he's in front of you, rather, right, going downhill, that he can make the tackle. I think in a phone booth, he's pretty good at making tackles, but I think that from behind and then kind of having to play it like that kind of direct behind angle. Yeah, he's going to miss those tackles. And those are the clips that go viral when people talk about how he can't make no tackles. Um, but stop that. Ted McMillan to the Carolina Panthers at 8. I like that pick for them. They just re-signed Thielen, but he's not going to be a high usage guy for them if they want to be serious. Bryce Young is 5'6". He can't see for that long. So you can't have Thielen on the outside trying to do hella releases to just get open. You need a big dude like Ted McMillan who can run a bang 8, but run it so fast that it looks like he ran it in half the time and just gets wide open. And Bryce Young will throw that. And he could also throw jump balls. I think the goal line fade is a terrible play, but especially at the NFL level. But if people are gonna run it, then run it with a guy like Ted McMillan. Tyler Warren to the New Orleans Saints. I like that pick. Penn State. In the first 10 picks, I have Penn State, Michigan, Penn State, a bunch of Big Ten teams. I just noticed that. But Tyler Warren's a scary dude. I mean, he finished like 5th in the Heisman voting for a reason. He was everything for Penn State when they needed him to be. And that takes nothing away from Clifford. Did I just say Sean Clifford? I'm sorry. Not Drew Rosenhaus, Drew Alar. And that takes nothing away from Drew Alar. Big, strong, uh, potential quarterback. I wouldn't hate, you know, if the Giants, please no, but if the Giants needed someone next year, if they got Drew Alar, I wouldn't hate that. I got Shamar Stewart going to the Chicago Bears. Like I just said, they invested so much on offense. I think they want to flip to some defense. We have another trade. The Cincinnati Bengals trading up to take the pick from the San Francisco 49ers to get Air Walker Nolan. Why would the 49ers trade out of this pick? First of all, they're the 49ers. They're always going to play chess or try to play chess. They have a lot of people in that building who are very calculated with their decisions. But at 11, if you're the 49ers, who do you get? You still have McCaffrey coming off injury. You have Purdy. You have Ayuk for the time being. You did trade Deebo Samuel, and you just traded Jordan Mason, but you're not going to get a running back 2 at that height. It doesn't necessarily seem like there's an offensive lineman that they want to get at that height because they probably want to get a right guard or left guard in the second round if available. So trade back if a team gives you a good opportunity. Cincinnati Bengals are going to need some help on the defensive line, losing Trey Hendrickson, presumably. Walker Nolan, they always talk about how he got this off the field problem and stuff. He reminds me eerily of Jalen Carter with the way he plays, but also the way they talk about him. He's so lazy at times when playing against the run. I think that that's gonna either A, show, or B, magically go away when he gets coached up. Because to be honest, like there's certain players who they can put out a lot of bad film and then magically get coached up by the right coach. And the player is also incentivized by A, millions of dollars, or B, fame, something like that. And then they magically get a lot better. I've seen that and heard about that and imagined that. But yeah, I think they trade up and get Walker Nolan. And this is a draft that's heavy on interior linemen. I think everyone is who deserves to get drafted per usual is not going to get drafted, which speaks to why some of my picks for the Giants, people might say, "Oh, that person's not going there, or that person's not going to fall there, or whoop de all right, but somebody of that caliber is falling there. That's the message that I'm trying to send, which is true. Just like saying like someone for that caliber, for Walker Nolan's Aaron Nolan's caliber, is going to get traded up for at 11 or a pick of that nature. 12, I have Ashton Genty to the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, they need help as at the in the running back room. Ashton Genty is from Texas. He fits in down there, and he's a real tank. You know, he's a real tank. Their offensive line is going to need some revamping, but CeeDee Lamb has proved me wrong. I didn't really think CeeDee Lamb had the stuff as a one. He has the stuff. And so with CD and maybe another receiver, maybe you draft like a Nick Nash in the second round, third round. Actually, don't draft him because I think I have the Giants taking him in my mock. But the point is, you draft a guy, and you have CD. Well, actually, yeah, don't get Nick Nash. Get a small slot. They get a smaller slot guy. The Dallas Cowboys can really be something offensively, and Ashton Genty can put them over the top. I got the tackle from Missouri going to the Dolphins. They need help everywhere. Indianapolis Colts, I have them taking Donovan Jackson, offensive guard. Why Mr. Jackson that high maybe as a guard? He can play tackle as well. He just has championship pedigree. He's played for the championship Ohio State Buckeyes so seamlessly that it's like you almost forget he's on the team in a good way. He's just a dude who's like a first rounder. It's like you look at him on the board and you think, why is he on the board? Even at 14, and the Colts still have a lot on their team all across the board. I love their secondary unit. Um, but I think at 14, you go best player available. And a lot of these guys on the board after him might be better athletes and they might be better this or that, but I think he's the best player available. I think that's him. Um, Jalen Walker is at that pick. That would be the Raiders going to the from Georgia because that's the pick that they traded out of the Falcons. Um, Williams from Georgia, back to back Georgia, going to the Arizona Cardinals. I think him opposite Josh Sweat. Whew. Okay, scary stuff. Scary stuff. Um, the San Francisco pick, this is the pick that they traded with Cincinnati. I think they get Barron, cornerback out of Texas. This is a corner heavy draft too, in my opinion. Corners are whether or not people like it, and it's about the ability of said corner. Like younger corners are going to get a chance. So by nature, like a Sauce Gardner is going to emerge, or like a Denzel Ward, or like Greg Newsome's, or I mean, tons of these guys, especially on the outside. On the interior, um, nickel guys do emerge, but I think more teams nowadays are playing with big nickels anyway. Like they're playing with like Cooper DeJean is like a in between guy because just because he's so big and he's strong and he can tackle. But like, I think teams would prefer to play with like a big nickel, like a 6'2", 210 kind of player, dang near safety, as opposed to like a slot corner, like a 5'10", 5'9", 175, 170 player. I think, but yeah, by the way the league is going, the outside guys are going to play early. So Barron is going to start for the 49ers. They just lost Charvarius Ward to the Colts. So yeah, he's going to start for them. I have Josh Simmons going to the Seattle Seahawks. You think you get Sam Darnold just a little bit more protection. Simmons was a beast. He did tear his patella tendon. Happens to the best of us. But he's a player that when you get down to 18, you're like, yeah, yeah, Ohio State. Will Howard was protected. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins both went over 1,000 yards. That offensive line has draftable guys up and down. And in my mock draft, Donovan Jackson goes right before him and Josh Simmons right after at 18 to the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers get my guy from Michigan, the tight end, Colston. Um, Mr. Love, I mean, and after they lose, and my as a true Michigan fan and just following them over the years, let's say going back to the last 5 years, they've just had dominant wide receivers, right? Like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Tariq Black, like dominant in the sense that they're getting touches. I know there's going to be somebody who's picky who's saying that some of these guys didn't touch like certain yard numbers, which is true, but they're dominant in the way that they're in like the offense is kind of like designed for them to touch the ball. Cornelius Jackson, um, all of these guys. And so Loveland is like he's good at everything, but when he does get the pill, it's like why are you not giving him the ball more? Like that's what you would say as an outside fan. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a great run game with Bucky Irving. They just re-signed Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans is still getting 1K. So I think you throw in another good receiving threat for Baker Mayfield, who's playing some good football, and you just keep going. Speaking of receiver threats, Luther Burden, the third from Missouri, he goes to the Denver Broncos. Give Bo Nix somebody to throw the ball to. Um, he proved me wrong as well. A couple players have really proved me wrong. Jalen Milroe, 21, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Mike Tomlin is playing possum. Like he wants him. And if he's gonna get fired, or if this is the last year of Tomlin, or if he's on this hot seat that they say he's on, let me go out swinging. Give me Jalen Milroe. Why not? You know, supreme athlete at the position, throws a lovely deep ball. Got to get better at the intermediate stuff, but um, with all due respect, he's just probably not good in like an RPO style offense. Not good in like an air raid style offense, unless you can live with him being Jameis Winston. Because yes, he can throw the deep ball, but like again, if you throw him in the air raid just because he can throw the deep ball, he will be like Jameis Winston, throwing 30 and 30. Um, but he can be really productive. They have DK Metcalf, they have George Pickens, they have Pat Frymuth. They can be really productive. Who's going to run the ball for them? I think they have Jalen Warren, but who's going to run the ball for them? Is a real question. Maybe they'll get a guy in this draft. Speaking of running the ball, Omarion Hampton to the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is a nut. He's a nut. He's a freaky guy, man. He's big on recruiting big running backs. He likes big running backs. He likes big, strong guys. And I'm talking about big dudes. Like he was really monumental in the recruitment of Najee Harris. And I remember thinking he was going to go to Michigan, and they talk about how he ended up going to his high school and doing all that stuff he did over there, like announcing the prom king and queen. That's kind of crazy, but yeah, he been one of Najee Harris. He got Najee Harris. Give him another guy to play next to. And they have another back. I can't remember his name, but he's like 5'7". So they have a tiny, tiny back. They have Najee Harris. Get Omarion Hampton, who can just be everything for you. Saquon Barkley Jr. Get him. Matthew Golden, receiver for the Texas from Texas, excuse me, going to the Green Bay Packers. They already have a lot of great receivers, but I think just one more guy, and I think a guy who can stay healthy. All of their receivers have missed time, all of them, and their quarterback, but their skill players have got to stay on the field. Nick Emmanuel from South Carolina going to the Minnesota Vikings. Harrison Smith is in year 15 for them or 14. He can do a little bit of mentoring. But the big rangy safety is in, so hopefully he can be that for them. I think that might be a little high of a pick for him, but we'll see. Houston Texans get Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama. I had mentioned on the show how they need a stronger core of linebackers and they need a stronger rotation. And what stronger way than get a guy like Jahad Campbell who can play all positions at linebacker? Like he's been 6'3", 245, 250. Like he's strong, he's rangy, he can go around everywhere. Mason Taylor, tight end from LSU, going to the LA Rams. Tight end in the first round is a high pick. The LA Rams are an unconventional team. They have dudes at the D-line position. There's not too many dudes in this draft at the D-line position. The next, I mean, even as I'm looking right here, the next pick is a defensive lineman, or the next two picks are defensive linemen, but they have players on their team who played those positions who just had 8 sacks. They just signed Poona Ford or traded for Poona Ford, either one. And I have a strong feeling that they're going to get Calais Campbell. So I don't think that they're going to get a D lineman in the draft. Mason Taylor is a player that you just throw in the McVay offense, and big, strong LSU understands how to play football. Throw him in there. Kenneth Grant, you see him play next to Kenneth, excuse me, you see Kenneth Grant play next to Mason Graham, and you think to yourself, how did this team basically go 500? The offense. The only reason that the Michigan won any games was how good that defense was, and that interior was all because of Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, and obviously Will Johnson on the outside. He missed a lot of time though. They just had so many good players on the team, and Kenneth Grant is a mammoth on the inside. You put him on the Baltimore Ravens, they just lost Mr. Pierce, he just retired for them. You put him on for them. He can play a lot of one, a lot of zero. Just be like the full-time nose. Harmon for Oregon, send him to the Lions. He feels like a Dan Campbell guy. Malachi Starks, safety, Washington Commanders. Um, Trey Amos, cornerback, Ole Miss, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City, Siobhan Revelle Jr., cornerback, East Carolina. And then last but not least, Philadelphia Eagles, Mike Green, edge from Marshall. They lost guys all across their team, but especially the D line. That's going to be a sneak pick for them. That's a classic Philly pick. Mike Green should be picked higher. He has a lot of off the field stuff that would probably get you not drafted at all in other leagues, but in the NFL, you just drop like 10 picks. So he's probably going to drop about 10 to 12 picks to the maybe the Philadelphia Eagles at 32. That's my first round. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, do the knowledge. Episode 14.